This is Steve Young for the Co-Roundtable. I would like to share some reflections about the global dialogue we held at Mountain House in Caux, Switzerland at the end of July. As some of you may know, the Co-Roundtable has organized global dialogues, inviting people from all over the world to take place in various cities for a long time. We haven't done it fairly recently because of COVID. But we wanted to go back to what some people call the mothership, which is Mountain House in the mountains above Lake Leman, just outside of Geneva. The first meeting of the Co-Roundtable was held there in 1986 with business leaders from Europe, Japan, and the United States to talk about business ethics, fair trade practices, corporate social responsibility, concern for the environment, opening up economies, fairness towards customers, employees, and countries. This year, we had about 28 people from different countries, different religions, different ages, different backgrounds. But I put before the group two propositions to be tested, to be thought about, neither of which is a kind of warm, fuzzy, friendly, optimistic proposition. But there was concerns I've had looking at our world, looking at what I've been reading, what people have been telling me, the news, books, articles, things like that, which leave me wondering sort of where are we as a world, as a human family. The two propositions I suggested, the first one was some kind of an international system of order which came into being after World War II is in disarray. Some would argue the quote liberal international order is collapsing. Others talk about globalization no longer providing a basis for optimism and economic opportunity, though at the same time the number of people living in poverty around the world has dropped dramatically during the 3 decades of globalization, or since 1945, if you go back that far. But concern that constitutional democracy is not as widely accepted, or at least the ideal isn't. It's a concern that the ideals of the United Nations, of the Western European Enlightenment, the rule of law, are somehow there. Everybody just sort of genuflects before them, but do they have any real role in our lives, or as much as they used to? So what's happening? What's going on? Some kind of process of dissipation, of divisiveness, of fragmentation. The second proposition, which is related to the first, is to ask the question, where are the leaders? I was surprised, frankly, when that question was put to our group at Mountain House, that it was the Europeans, the French and Germans, who spoke up immediately with a certain amount of conviction that they don't see any leaders in Europe, not even in their own countries. Well, if you've got problems on one hand and no leaders on the other, what are you going to do? What's the way out? And the discussions, which we sent a statement around, which you can get, it's on our website, and we're going to have a longer discussion of all this in the August issue coming out very soon of our monthly newsletter, Pegasus, which you will find on our website. But the conversation of these different people, different religious backgrounds, ages, professions, sort of honed in to focus on a very simple, old-fashioned word, responsibility, which we don't use very much anymore. That's what struck me sitting there, taking notes, listening to the back and flow of conversation and discussion, that we have a lot of big fancy words. We have Sustainable Development Goals from the UN. We have SDG, ESG, environment, society, government is the new investment criteria for companies. We have analysis of this and that, but who talks about responsibility? In the United States, my country, for example, student achievement in math and reading and things like that is down. We're spending more money than ever before on our public schools, on our children, but their abilities are not as good as 30 years ago or 50 years ago. So what's happened? Who takes responsibility? But when you put the question of responsibility, two other questions come to mind. One is responsibility to whom? The other is responsibility for what? And then the third one, when you start thinking about it, and I'm watching faces around our round tables, a big sort of hollow square actually. Are you talking about me? You want me to be responsible? You want me to be responsible to whom and for what? And the other thing I can see in people's minds is, what are you going to pay me? Or the why question. Why should I be responsible? Are you part of my family? Are you a friend? Do you belong to my religious group? Are you sort of part of my ethnic community? Are you part of my nation? Why should I be responsible? And that leads me to speculate about the global impact of what in America they've been calling meism. The me generation, the baby boomers here, or meism. And I have a question in my mind. If meism is what we're all about, where is responsibility going to sit?